CK here, and I'm back with another Automation Monday. This week we've got part 3 of our in-depth look at a macro I have created to handle a workflow I do for a music publisher. The process involves basically reviewing several tracks in a batch. When I've completed reviewing one track, I need to clean up the project and get it ready for the next track. I do that by creating a new project alternative, which is a cool feature in Logic Pro if you don't know about it, and basically deleting and resetting everything to just erase it and put it back to a vanilla state before I bring in the next file that needs to be reviewed. But before we dive into looking at the last remaining chunk that we haven't walked through yet, let's take a look at the macro in action just to refresh everybody's memories. Here we go. Now, where we left off was that the macro removed all of the plugins except this one, which has to stay. Once I'm changing over from a track I've completed to a new track, I want to get rid of these things, right? So that's all that's about. So that part of the process would have selected all of these guys, deselected this one, and then issued the keep command to delete all of the plugins on the selected tracks. And you can choose that from any of these settings menus, remove all effects plugins. So that's what that guy just did. First thing in our next section of the macro is that a prompt pops up and asks me to just check over, does everything look okay? And it's as simple as just hitting OK. Prompts in Keyboard Maestro can have you fill in variables, like something that the user types in that you type into this window, say, could become a value that gets stored in a variable. You can have a cancel button that would cancel the macro when you click it, things like that. So these are actually really handy. And in this case, it's just, does everything look okay? I'm not trying to win any programming awards here. I'm just trying to get this job done. And this is a good milestone at which I can check and make sure that everything has gone appropriately. The next thing we do after that prompt to check it out is I'm going to return to my first Logic screen set. In the last video, I mentioned that screen sets in Logic are just saved window configurations. What we're looking at now, the mixer, is my number 2 screen set. When I press 1, it returns to my first screen set. And it's showing the tracks area and the notepad. All right. So what's cool about having screen sets and then using those in macros is that I'm guaranteed to know what's currently displayed in this window and what I can get at and manipulate from my macro. All right. Groovy. Then having issued that number 1 keystroke, the one on the QWERTY keyboard, I just have a little pause to wait until the front window of Logic Pro has tracks in the title, because I know that this window always ends with -space tracks. So that's a good checkup that I'm where I think I am on the screen. All right, great. Next thing we need to do is remove the audio of the last title from the file browser before we move on to the next one. So in the last segment of this macro, part of it was to delete all the files that were part of the previous title, but they're still extant in the file browser. So what we do is we type F to show the Logic file browser. So it was on the notepad. Keyboard Maestro types F to open the file browser. Then it pauses for a moment just to make sure that the screen updates. Then it selects all with a Command A. So in Logic, in this sort of multi-frame windowing setup, you notice that this blue outline is here, and that indicates that this is the focused part of the screen. If I were to tab now, this is the focused part of the screen. You can see the blue outline. So we know that we're over here. I hit a Command A, and that selects all of the files from the previous project. I hit a delete to get rid of it, and I issue a Command Option P to return to the notepad. And that is this whole group of actions right there. Okay. Now I used to have another check that said, hey, reset the project manually to 111, the project start. So that is talking about this little gray triangle up here. That allows you to set the project start to something other than bar 1, beat 1. And it's often that if I'm lining up tracks so that their downbeat is on 1, there's some silence before, or possibly even some pickup notes before 111. And so I want to be sure to catch those, obviously. So I back up the project start to make sure. And after working with this template for a while, I decided that I was actually cool with just leaving this somewhere before 1. But what I really do want to do is return the playhead to 1-1. So here's how I do that. Return the playhead to 1-1. There is a command called go to position that lets you type in the bars, beats, ticks, divisions that you want to go to. I wait until that command is available. It's under navigate. So navigate, go to position. I choose that command right here, and then I wait until that window comes up. And the way that I do that is just looking for the front window to have the title go to position. The reason I do that, we've talked about before, is I don't want to try to do work in a window that doesn't exist yet. That's going to crash the whole thing, right? So I just wait for it to show up. There it is, and its title bar says go to position. So we've waited for it to come up, and then knowing where this chunk of the window is relative to the top left corner, which is easy to measure, then I can click right on that spot in case it's not already selected. So Keyboard Maestro clicks right there to select this field. And then I type 1.1.1.1 and return. You can see the symbol right there. Okay, so I type 1.1.1.1, return, and doesn't matter where it was, it'll go back like so. Okay, here's our last part. It's probably the most complex of anything we've looked at in this video, but not that complex. So this simply says switch to the Finder and bring all of its windows to the front. That's easy. And in this workflow, I know that I have wave files sent on is how all of the batch folders are labeled. And then they have a date and a timestamp. And so I say, hey, if any window in the Finder has that in the title, just bring that to the front. But if not, close the front window and reveal that file that I want. Here is the mildly tricky part that I mentioned. And if I expand this, you'll see more of it. This is a series of variables, and the syntax that you're seeing is showing them using tokens, which just means instead of putting in the variable name, I have to precede it with %, variable, %, and follow it with a %. But what this comes down to is that at the point when I first start working on a batch, I download it, I save its unique identifier, which is its date and timestamp, to a variable, a permanent variable, so that when it comes time to work on that at any later point, I can always get to it because I know its name in this sort of abstracted fashion. And so I can tell Keyboard Maestro, hey, go open the folder of the current batch. And it just uses the variables to get to it. Okay. Then we pause until the We pause until the find command is available in the file menu. And then we do a special version of it. We do find by name specifically, which is Control-Shift-Command-F. So if I'm over here in the Finder and I hold down those keys, you see that it changes. If I just hold down Command, it's fine. But if I add Control and Shift, it's find by name. Doing that means that when I search, it's just going to search by name. It's not going to try to, is it the contents? Is it the date? Is it the name? Is it anything else? It's just going to look for names. Then, if you'll remember, when we started this whole macro, the way I kicked it off is that I copied the name of the next track from a spreadsheet cell. That track name is still sitting on the clipboard at this point. So let's say that it's Hidden Secrets. All I need to do now that I have that search field highlighted is hit paste and then return. Okay, so let's say that it's Hidden Secrets. Because that track is in this batch, it shows up, and now I have everything I need to just grab all those tracks and drag them over to Logic. What's more, I move and resize the window so that it's easy. It's like positioned nicely for me to be able to work with Logic. So I'll put it like way over here, and then I'll try this action. And so it repositions it, resizes it so I can see what I'm looking at, and boom. Okay. So all that took was to move and resize windows with the title containing the word searching, which anything you've just used find in is going to have. And there you go. Okay. So that's it for this macro. If you have any questions at all, just put them in the comments and I promise I will get back to you. And all the information about my Skillshare classes is in the description and the little yammering talking head that will follow this. See ya. I hope that's been helpful to you and maybe inspiring. If you would like to learn more, the first thing you should do is just download the free trial of Keyboard Maestro. If you want further instruction, yes, I have classes on Skillshare, and I'd love to see you in those classes. What makes Skillshare cool compared to, say, watching a YouTube video is that you have access to me as an instructor. Every class actually has a project that you turn in and that I'll comment on. And you can ask me questions and I will get back to you personally and directly. So that's really where you find the value by taking a class on Skillshare rather than just watching YouTube videos. So I hope you'll give it a shot. I'm always happy to help.